And welcome to Conservatives Talk.
We got a pretty quick show this week.
Yes, but keep in mind, quick is relative for us.
Yeah, I don't expect 2 hours.
For once.
And the only time.
Yes.
But getting into this week's show, Biden starts to walk back his claims about MAGA supporters.
And Kisha Lance Bottoms is literally like scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Speaking of bottom of the barrel, we're getting ready for the Roman special because we got a special coming out and we're going to kind of get in some of the details what the special is going to tell you about.
Absolutely. And you're going to love the special almost as much as you're going to love Buck's newest conspiracy theory. And that is about how mainstream media just doesn't care that much about Republican lives.
It's going to be a big one.
As always.
Stay tuned.
And welcome back to Conservatives Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we always like to start off each show by reminding everybody to make sure they hit the like button and the share button on any of the topic or any of the productions that you see on any platform that you run across it. By doing that, it really helps us get into the news feed a lot higher and gets our production seen by a lot more people. If you're able to, also, oh motherfucker, I forgot to do it. All right, so we got. Yeah, I forgot to hit the. All right, okay.
Sorry back.
That and I forgot to hit the timer too. See what happens when I don't sleep.
With you.
All right, so we'll start on 10. And welcome back to Conservatives Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we always like to start off by reminding everyone to make sure they hit the like button and the share button on any of the productions that you run across on any of the platforms that we produce our show on. That really helps us get higher into the newsfeed and allows us to be seen by more and more people and potentially influence more and more minds. While you're doing that, also please consider going to conservativestalk.org. You'll see it on your screen there below us. And help us out by hitting the sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner and the lower right-hand corner and helping us out with what you're able to, because every little bit gets poured right back into the show. It comes into the production value. It really helps us be able to expand the reach, to target new audiences, and to bring what we're working on and producing to an entirely new demographic that we may not have been able to reach beforehand. And while you're there, also make sure that you leave us your email address on the homepage. That way you can sign up for our upcoming bi-weekly newsletter. And I know we keep saying it, but it is coming. And as always, we have promised that the first newsletter that is released is going to be about the nationally, the national production that we're working on putting together. I mean, it's going to have implications that are going to rise well above just what Jamie and I are capable of doing at this moment in time, as far as just the reach that we would have. This is going to have some of the most consequences and groundbreaking folks that are coming out there and speaking about this, and we're going to have some great guests on this, and it's been a labor of love, and it's going to be great.
I mean, with everything, anybody who knows Justin and I, we've had a lot going on, but this is really a very exciting project that we've been able to put together. And well, man, I'm looking forward to being able to share it with everyone, give everyone some insight, and we'll kind of, push forward from there. Mm-hmm. And speaking of something kind of great going on, I wanted to remind everyone about the Rome rally today. And as of today, it'll be known as the Tillman rally, to honor Earl and Carolyn, who have kind of helped keep the party together. And we used to do this rally every year at the hangar out at the Rome and Floyd County Airport, but now it's been at Coosa Valley Fairgrounds for the last couple of years. And so we're officially changing the name of the rally to honor them and their support for the last 18 years of the local party.
It could not, this award and this honor could not be going to a better family. It really could.
Absolutely. I mean, Earl's got a soft spot. Earl was the only person my dad would get on a plane if they were flying. He would refuse to fly out of Atlanta or anywhere else. And when I was a little kid, before we left to go to the farm one day, because we used to fly to Indiana and go. I'd work on a farm, and Dad would preach on the Sunday while we were there. Anyway, but got to go like briefly out and shoot at rabbits with Earl. The man's been near and dear to my heart for a long time. So being able to be the local chairman and to have this honor in order to do this is really big for me as well as our community.
Yeah.
Here
So
in Floyd County.
if you're sitting at home watching the show right now, we give you permission to stop, leave, go to the Floyd County or go to the Coosa Valley Fairgrounds and participate in this rally, because it's going to have some of the biggest names. I mean,
it's
out there.
Yeah, it's major. A good bit of the ticket is coming. Again, we're going to be honoring the Tillmans. I mean, and of course, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be there.
U.S. Senate candidate Herschel Walker will be there
as well as those candidates who could make it are going to be represented very well, and as of course all of our local officials. And so Duffy's Deli is catering it as they always do every year, and you never want to miss our 40-foot flag. So looking forward to
That's a sore spot.
Someone has to put it up and take it down.
Well, let's roll into the next part of this.
Well, you know what? And speaking of something local, don't forget to boycott hometown headlines.
Yes, the Northwest Georgia's liberal rag.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I stopped payment on my credit card for the Roman News Tribune. And when they called and asked me where my subscription was, I pretty much told them I wanted them to cancel it until they pretty much let go of hometown headlines.
Yeah.
Because look, I've always been a fan of Roman News Tribune. And I know people have their soft spot or hate it, love it, whatever, right? It's the local news source that I grew up with. I do have a soft spot for it. I love to read it, but I cannot continue to support.
So that's what's wrong with you.
Probably. I can't continue to support them if they allow for something like this with this individual at hometown headlines.
Yes, it's he took in my opinion what was already something that skewed more left than anything else, and just took it well over the limit of any sort of a credible newsworthy organization.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm going to get into more in that when we start talking about the conspiracy theory, because I mean, for me, this part isn't a conspiracy theory, but it fits right into where media is going. So don't forget to boycott hometown headlines.
So let's do your favorite part.
Yes. 60 days until we beat Stacey Abrams.
Oh, I'm getting so tired of that. I want it to be over so fast.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
It will have been what?
Oh, he started a long time ago. I didn't even fathom.
I've got to pull up my toes real fast. 31 episodes where we have said that. 31 weeks so far.
Nice.
Can't wait to have a new part.
Can't wait.
So let's jump right on into it. We were talking about essentially that Biden's walking back his incendiary claims against MAGA supporters.
Yeah.
So like we did last week, we've taken his speech that he gave, not the one that we had been showing you before. He did a tour. Yeah, he did a tour of Northeast where he was, up there 999 or join the dark side, shooting lightning bolts out from his fingers.
This is like, I've described this multiple ways to Justin, and one of them that I can think of for any of you who've seen the show The Office, because it's one of my favorite TV shows, when Dwight gets up there and basically quotes Mussolini's speech is when he gets Salesman of the Year for Dunder Mifflin or the region or whatever it was, and he starts banging on the desk. Like, that's pretty much what Joe Biden just did. Like, he basically, you can equate it to him. Imagine like a background that you saw in V for Vendetta. That's the one I was thinking about. Yep. Background for V for Vendetta, but he's like quoting Mussolini.
Well, that's actually not a bad. I think you're pretty well on with that. So let's roll through some of the clips. We've got several highlights of his speech, and we're going to address each one as we come to it. So here's the first one that we were speaking about.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
Not normal. Well, of course it's not normal, because we're living in Joe Biden's new
Well,
new normal.
Well, duh, because I mean, like, it's not normal. He made it. He made it that way.
Yes.
They can't define a woman.
I mean,
you want to talk about not normal, but
one.
you don't want to like define a woman? I don't understand.
You've been holding off on that one.
I've been waiting.
Yeah, you're holding that. Yeah.
That's
that
teach your own.
It is not normal to not be able to define what a woman is, what a man is, what a child is.
6,000 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you add in, I would just say the lunar calendar that, you know, Judeo-Christians follow, some Judeo-Christians, and the after Christ or Christ era time frame. We're talking about roughly 6,000 years or so of recorded history to where we have very distinct definitions of what a man and a woman is. You can web and flow in between of that as far as however you want to about sexuality, who likes what, when, where, how, whatever, but you still define.
Not everybody's business outside of their own private.
Correct. Course. You can. No one cares. But like when you start trying to change 6,000 years of recorded history and say like if you want to, as I said last week, if you want to chop it off, that's kind of on you. But I'm just saying stop. But you know,
I'm not going to touch that one.
That's on you. But you can't change the definition of a man and a woman just because you want to be PC change, you know, for whatever reason.
Well, I guess we should ask the folks at Weber about that because they did recently just change it, and that's something we'll have to jump into on another day because I would rather be able to show the differences between.
Don't get me started on that rabbit hole right now.
Definitions of it. So of course,
Webster added twerking because it was popular enough. So I don't. Whatever.
I mean, you would think that would be more kind of the Urban Dictionary as opposed to the dictionary.
Correct. But the literal Webster, I really looked into this in the, when was it? I think it was around the time Miley Cyrus came out. Anyway, because here, very short rabbit hole, right? I always wanted to add the word swift into the dictionary. Okay. Everyone gives the same reaction. And
I have no idea what that means.
The past tense of being swift.
Is that a Taylor reference?
That's anyway.
Sword topic.
Talk about my girl Taylor Swift. Anyway, but so I looked into it, and actually, if enough people petition and use the word or ask and request for the change, then Webster will change, add, or delete the definition of a word.
Oh, that just sounds dangerous.
So that's how we got here, but that's for a whole other topic.
Yes, yeah, that sounds like another special. So now that we realize that we're living in Joe Biden's new normal, let's take another look at one of his other highlights from his just incredible speech.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated.
So there are, in my mind, there are three specific parts of that specific segment. The first being where he said that the MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump are essentially the existential crisis or the existential threat to democracy and moving forward. The second one being, I'm not sure where he's talking about. There are a group believing there are only two outcomes to an election. There's only one outcome to an election. There's never two outcomes. There's only one. And the third being the fact that there were U.S. Marines standing behind him during that segment of speech. The fact that he used the Marines in what would have been an official event, because you're not allowed to use any sort of military uniform outside of official events. You cannot use them in political circumstances or anything along that line. That's a violation of a law known as the Hatch Act. The fact that he did that on national television, breaking the law, which granted, that's not far. That's kind of par for the course for the Biden family.
But that's interesting because I don't think most people, you know, if you don't know as much about the military or haven't served, you know what I mean? Like that's something that I, as non-military family, would have known. But that makes a difference because clearly that was a campaign speech.
Yes.
And it's a campaign tour, but he used his official presidential capacity in order to, you know, kind of have that set the stage how he wanted it.
Not just that, but he also in one of his campaign stops used the official Marine band, which how Merrick Garland is not pursuing criminal charges against the president for doing this, beyond me. Well, I say that we all know why he's not doing it. Yeah, so, I mean, he's
same reason. Oh, I can't say that.
He's got his hand. Biden's got his hand stuck up the backside of Maryland, and it's just telling him which way to go with all that. But so let's look at the first part of that speech about how the MAGA Republicans and Trump are the crisis or the biggest threat against democracy. And then when we covered this in the last episode, MAGA stands 100% for Make America Great Again. How can that be a threat to democracy when essentially democracy is how we get our representatives to build our republic?
Yeah. And so 2 things for me that kind of irk me in this segment, right? A lot of times not so much Democrats because they've been there forever and they'll never, but they'll make sense in a second. For a long time, you kind of define representatives by the era that they came in. You know what I mean? But like trying to put a negative stigma on that is awful. That's like literally saying Joe Biden is a Klan member Democrat.
Well, he did come out and support.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because he came into an era where there was heavy Klan support inside of the Democratic Party. You know, that was a big boost for his area when he got there. So I make that statement to say this, right?
I know you're going with this, and he's not flirting with what you're thinking. I just want to reiterate that and make that clear.
Yeah, it's just that like it's awful for him to try to tie MAGA to a negative connotation.
Exactly.
When you could make the claim that how he came up into politics is actually a negative connotation.
Yes. He was actually a racist U.S. senator.
Correct. And he stood by racist claims and allegations and legislation in order to get to where he is today. So to try to take the complete opposite of what MAGA is, and it's almost like projecting like his own negativity on somebody else.
I like that. Projecting. I really like that. That's a very good way of looking at that.
The second part I have a problem with is the 3 outcomes. There are 3. Okay. Win, lose, or cheated. And the reason why I put it that way, okay, is because everybody has their own varying opinion, right? I don't think that it was the machines. It was the absentee ballots.
No, I got you. I still think, or from the perspective of from the perspective that only one party, and that's what he said, one party can see multiple or has multiple outcomes. There's only one outcome for one party. You either win
or you lose. But and the reason why I brought up the second is because we can go through this in a minute, but again projecting the same allegations that they did, and we're going to see in a couple clips in a few minutes.
Yes.
They're accusing us of the same thing that they did 4 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, 4 years ago and 6 years ago, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
So let's look at the next segment, and this one is just as telling as all the other ones.
History tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards. They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the flames of political violence. that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law.
So that one was, wow, that one was packed. So he's saying that MAGA or the MAGA movement or MAGA supporters are the reason why we are having assaults on our personal liberties. And what he's referring to there is the right for a woman to kill an unborn fetus in their womb. That's literally the only thing that he's describing there.
Because everything else is literally them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
literally his administration. By them, I'm not even meaning Democrats. I'm meaning his administration, what they've done in the basically 2 years.
Yes. They have trampled on more of our liberties and more of things that we hold sacred than any other institution in the history of the United States.
They've attacked our Second Amendment rights. They have, again, tried to change what the definition of male and female is, even going as far as trying to change Title IX in high school and collegiate sports.
Trying to force businesses to institute unconstitutional vaccine mandates.
Yep. And force businesses to close, force America to shut down for the first time. It's enterprise. That it's never happened. That didn't even happen in the Spanish flu, right? The list is endless, really, of the things that they have just like unilaterally changed.
Yep.
You know, climate change efforts, you know, and I always point back to this. Okay.
You mean the big lie, the real big lie?
So because here, I agree that there is a certain level that we need to protect our environment, and you can
110%.
You can look at oil companies and forestry companies and what they do. For every tree a forestry company chops down, they plant two. Because why would you want to kill your own supply?
Exactly.
But my whole thing is this, okay? If global warming was real, banks wouldn't be selling mortgages to new developments in Florida or other island countries. Because based on their maps, all that would be underwater. Why would I put millions of dollars into a development that I know is going to be sunk in a couple of years?
And Obama would not have bought a multi-million-dollar beachfront estate.
Why would you stay in California? Why would you invest in California as a whole?
Yeah, why is Gavin Newsom so dead set on maintaining it and living in California? And no, that's a very good point.
You know what I mean? Like
I had not considered that yet.
Let's be real about it. The reality is, if it was real, if it was an honest to God threat, other than, and here's my thing.
Well,
right?
It's super serial. So
super serial, man, bear, pig, South Park. If you can't get the reference, part of what I'm saying is if you look at the history of the Earth, and there was a point that there were no polar ice caps. The reason why we have polar ice caps is because the last remnant of the ice age. So I'm kind of thinking that in the life cycle of the Earth, they're supposed to go away at some point. You know, that's kind of like,
yeah, because there have been ancient civilizations found several hundred feet below the surface of the ocean. And right, you look at the Sahara Desert in Africa, right? Everywhere that there used to be a desert at one point was a forest or something else where it had died. So when you look at the cliff in Africa, that's like, what, I don't know, making this up right now, 50, 70 feet jump from the cliff of the continent over to the ocean or something, like in some spots. That means that at some point there was beachfront at the Sahara Desert that isn't there anymore. So that level kind of's got to go up again. And the only way that we're going to get more water on the Earth is if the ice caps melt. Well, we are living in currently we are sitting in a location that was underwater. About 1 million years ago or so.
And don't get me wrong, there are certain innovations that can be seen as green technology that I think are valuable, right? Moving away from the combustion engine gives us faster cars. It gives us better resources, right? And reduces the amount of oil, because oil is in everything. We can't have lights, cameras, football jerseys, t-shirts, glasses, any of that without oil.
The batteries to make the cars.
You know, generators that keep all of it processing whenever power grids go out. So we can reuse oil in other areas by dropping the price of how much we use at the pump, because and that in itself helps everything out by better utilizing those resources.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that.
But they're lying about how they want to go about it.
So let's take another. So the next clip we're going to play. So I guess we should take a step back. All of the clips that we have played you so far took place on a Thursday. The next clip that we're going to play you took place on the following day, right after these past 3 clips have been played. It's Friday. It's at a press conference, and let's listen to what Joe Biden had to say.
I don't consider any Trump supporter to be a threat to the country. I do think anyone who calls for the use of violence, fails to condemn violence when it's used, refuses to acknowledge when an election has been won, insists upon changing the way in which the rules you count votes. That is a threat to democracy.
So again, Joe Biden is essentially describing Democrats.
Yep.
Every part of that he said was a threat to democracy is exactly what Democrats had done for the past 4 to 6 years.
Yep.
Quite literally. They used political violence all of 2020. And one of the things we're going to look at as far as not acknowledging the winner of an election. That's something we're going to pull up here in just a little bit. And the fact that that we are simply trying to get, or that we are going around the rule of law, which is something that I find interesting, because the rule of law is what he had been or essentially his entire career had been set around crafting the law. But if we're not following what he's wanting, then we're not going along with the rule of law.
I can't take anyone serious who wants to say that Republicans, MAGA Republicans, mainstream, whatever, any type of Republican that you want to is the problem, when they literally took over a city and did nothing about it.
Yes. So something just popped in my head. Instead of us saying the MAGA Republicans, let's just start using the frame, the Make America Great Again Republicans.
I'm just going to call them Republicans, because to me, we're all the same. We may have like Big Tent. Little things, you know what I mean, that we may believe don't go far enough or go too far, right? Depending on who you are, but we're all Republicans.
Perfect example of this.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I mean,
yeah,
he has ideas and thoughts that I don't necessarily agree with, and I have lots of ideas and thoughts that he doesn't necessarily agree with. So
I'm a little passive.
But
I don't mind waiting 20 years to come get him.
We'll see about that when he's on my team. And you said 20, I'll give you 2. But anyway, let's take a look at the next clip. So the next clip is where we have it's KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, our most notable affirmative, or our second most notable affirmative action hire in the federal government. The first being Katanja. Her literal
here's my
first words when she got the job is, "I am proud to be the first Black, openly gay, press secretary."
Yeah, like
literally the first ones.
Like,
I'm missing Jim Packey.
No, I hear you. I just I get iffy about affirmative action hires, even though I know that this is what this was. You know, that was intentional. Not
just
to
like
take
the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah,
pick.
not to take away the credit, because she worked her tail off in order to get to that position, in order to be there. But like that just proves what this administration is doing across the board. Yeah, it's all intentional to make a scene.
She worked her tail off to be able to get to the position where she would get that pick, or that hire. But yes, I mean, I'm sure she's a lot more intelligent than she sounds. I may be giving her more,
because you know what, the clips that we're about to show y'all kind of prove both our points in this. Kudos for you being able to make it, but you definitely were the action hire.
Yes. So the next one kind of speaks for itself.
Yep.
Let's talk about the president's speech on Thursday. He used the phrase MAGA Republicans more than a dozen times. But at this point, Is there a difference between traditional mainstream Republicans and those who follow Donald Trump?
He believes so, and he made that very clear in his speech as well. Look, what you heard from the president on Thursday was he was speaking from the heart about what is currently happening, this inflection point, as he called it, in this country. We need to continue, and he is going to protect our democracy, protect our values, protect our freedoms, protect our rights. And he sees that all of those things that I just laid out are under assault.
So one of the big things that really stuck out to me and what she was saying there is she kept saying that he's going to protect our, whether it be values, freedoms, whatever. What she's really referring to in that circumstance is the Democrat values, the Democrat freedoms. He's going to continue to protect those because everything that they're doing with as far as all of the national legislation they're pushing for is not American values, is not American freedoms. It's the Democrat values, the Democrat freedoms. So that's essentially what she's talking about.
It's their party, and you know, using "our" coming from them is a coded message. Same type of language that they want to say for us. Only difference is that when we say "Make America Great Again," we mean for everyone. Yes.
So I'm gonna play you the next clip, and I think it's a little telling because even though this is an extremely liberal broadcast that this is being played out on, it shows.
It's such an powerful and passionate speech, as you know, Jonathan. And it was, again,
excuse me.
You okay? Do you want some water?
No, I'm fine. Okay. Keep talking.
Okay. And
I mean, that looked like a real allergic reaction to me.
I mean, he was like, I can't believe what you're saying.
He was literally laughing at her while trying to choke it back at the same time.
That, like, coded message, right? I see why they hired you. Because you know what I mean? Like, you can get on TV and lie.
And everybody stand up and applaud you for it.
Mm-hmm. Like, what? I meant the next clip that we're about to show is the one that I was referring to because it's still KJP or
Kareem Jean-Pierre.
Okay.
And it's racist for you not to be able to say it.
I can't do that.
My name, then you're racist.
I mean, I can barely say my own name, but that's a whole other ballgame.
You're racist. Just accept it.
Yeah, I'm in there, in the boat.
So let's take a look at this next clip, and I think it's telling of exactly what it is that we can expect from the Biden administration when you have stumbling Joe Biden out there making these accusations, and then you have him coming back and trying to mop things up. But yet, when his press secretary gets out in front of the camera, this is what she does.
Democrats and people on the left are pretty happy about the more aggressive tone they're seeing from the president and from the White House. But you're also facing some criticism, which has been brought up, that this aggressive tone is also stoking the divisiveness that he's trying to heal. Any concerns about that?
You know, the president's never going to shy away from calling out what he sees.
Calling out what he sees. You know, we did that for 4 years under President Trump. We were called racist. We were called bigots. We were called xenophobics.
Yep.
But yet when Joe Biden gets up there and he's calling out what he sees, he's lauded as a hero.
I really don't have any words for this. And, you know, we have endured them projecting. That really was the perfect word.
Yes.
Projecting what their emotions were in 2016 and 2018 and everything in 2015 that led up to it. And they have built a political model off of that and have convinced, you know what I mean, a good portion of the people that everything that they tried to say about us is what, you know what I mean, what they actually did and spun the lie. That, I mean, I'm at a loss for words.
That's one thing that they're incredible at. They are great at spinning the lie. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to replay one of the video clips that we had just shown And I want you to pay specific attention to what Joe Biden is actually saying, because it's going to carry heavy influence in the next clips that we're going to be showing you.
I don't consider any Trump supporter to be a threat to the country. I do think anyone who calls for the use of violence fails to condemn violence when it's used, refuses to acknowledge when an election has been won, insists upon changing the way in which the rules you count votes. That is a threat to democracy.
So, a couple of things there that we didn't touch on earlier, and one of those being again, the use of political violence and not condemning it. Our vice president shared the Minnesota Freedom Bell link. So did several other U.S. congressional members. Why weren't they condemning the violence with these riots that were literally killing multiple officers, multiple civilians, destroying lives, destroying businesses, destroying our entire economic sphere, and crippling, and not just crippling, but seizing and taking over an entire city?
Yep. We also had some of those same Democratic congressional members go out and try to stop a legal permitted pipeline.
Yes.
In an illegal protest to try to stop this pipeline, throwing things at police officers, throwing things at, employees of the pipeline, doing everything that they could. And here we are again these people have conducted violent acts, but they now want to try to wrongfully prosecute and go after people, for actions that in my mind are nowhere near as awful as they've done for the last 6 years.
So one of the things that really just jumped in my head here is we need to add the clip of how AOC fake being arrested. And that is exactly how Democrats believe when they break the law, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're seeing. Let's be honest. That's exactly what we're seeing. They fake being arrested and then they just walk off.
Yep.
So I told you to pay attention to what Joe Biden was saying, specifically about the refusal to acknowledge the winners of elections. So the next clip we're about to show you is from Joe Biden's own favorite press secretary. So let's take a look at this.
I understand the new attention on the MAGA Republicans. You tweeted in 2016
I knew this
Trump
was coming.
stole an election.
I was waiting, Peter, when you were going to ask me that question.
Well, great. Here we go. You tweeted Trump stole an election. You tweeted Brian Kemp stole an election. If denying election results is extreme now, why wasn't
so
it then?
let's be really clear. That comparison that you made is just ridiculous.
Ridiculous. It's on the screen there in front of you.
That's it.
She literally says, stolen emails, stolen drones, stolen election. Welcome to the hashtag unprecedented Trump.
So I also think that it's valuable to point out what she captioned that with when she retweeted, right? Because it was in reference to something about if you can pull it back up too, so I can read it.
Go ahead.
That way I can say it word for word. So if a foreign nation takes something of ours, we should let them, sorry, I'm trying to read it from up here, keep it, ? It's very interesting that one of the actions that this administration took was leaving $80 billion worth of military equipment and a poorly evacuation and then saying it's theirs. So not only did she contradict herself in that, but even the part that she was retweeting just shows the hypocrisy of this administration and where the Democratic Party is going.
Yes, by leaving all of that military hardware and equipment there, we were literally, as a country, giving aid and comfort to our enemies.
Yep. $80 billion worth.
As a country, we were committing our because Joe Biden is the head of the country for the time being, or at least the figurehead with the puppet or the puppetry head of our country for the time being. His actions are our actions. However regrettable that is the reality of the day.
Yep. We're still one country.
Exactly. So by him doing that, we did that by association. So we, as a nation, gave aid and comfort to our own enemies. Essentially, we as a country committed treason against America.
But poor planning from by an administration. Like I like so many things I could say right now, but it just really irritates me at the fact that they honestly are going to sit here and try to say that we as Republicans are the problem when they are literally doing everything that they're trying to blame Republicans for. It's like I'm going to blame you for this while I literally do it behind everyone's back.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at the next clip. So this clip is essentially the explanation of why she tweeted what she did.
I was talking specifically at that time of what was happening with voting rights and what was in danger of voting rights.
Specifically about voting rights and what was in danger about voting rights. Funny thing about it, the John Lewis Act had already previously been written before SB 202 was even being considered.
Mm-hmm.
The federal takeover of our elections was already well within the pipeline, well before they decided that this was going to be a great talking point for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they were spearheading the changing of our elections and how they would be ran and conducted. If it's not in their favor, if the turnout does not work to them, then it needs to be changed, and it needs to be changed to their values and how they see it. It has nothing to do with a state's ability to control its own elections and to choose its own representative.
They had already. Here's the scary thing for me, right? Because what this really shows is that those who are in the know, right? Because she just didn't walk in off the street and turn in a resume. You know what I mean? She was already in the know.
She was groomed for it. To use the G word.
Yeah.
Correctly.
You threw me off. Anyway,
you had to think about that one.
I was like, what? Those who are in the know had already put together their communications and propaganda language and basically handbook in 2016 and 2018. So when she made this tweet, they already knew the message that they were going to spin in 2020 and 2022.
Yes. These type of things are not something this vast and this complex is not something that is done off the cusp. It takes a lot of planning, takes a lot of coordination. It takes buying out a lot of your mainstream media corporations to where they are literally reciting the same thing over and over and over. I'm going to pull that video one of these days, and we're going to play that on here.
And you all can see it. Like if somebody, you can go to YouTube and you can look up mass media compilation or something like that, where you can see multiple anchors saying the same thing, and it's not dubbed. It just goes from one and it just says the next line, and it's all one message. So it really shows that they're all aligned with each other, which is why people are having such a hard time with mainstream media.
Nobody believes them.
No one believes them because it's the same story. It's almost like some guy at the top writes a story and says,
that's exactly what the six heads do.
Yeah. I don't even think it's six anymore. I think it's just one person sends it to those six send it to all their affiliates.
Into some Illuminati stuff there, buddy.
Whoa.
You and old Buck are going to have to chill off on the Kool-Aid. So
talk about my people.
As always, we always like to remind everybody to make sure you like and share all of the content that we produce on any of the platforms that we produce it on. Also, if you're able to, please go to our website, conservativestalk.org, and become a sponsor today. While you're there, also leave us your email address and join our newsletter list. It is coming. I promise you will love it. It will be great.
Yeah,
we'll call it that. It'll be great. So let's take a look at our next topic on this, and that is Kisha Bottoms is literally like scraping the bottom of the barrel. So, in true conservative talk fashion, we have a clip for this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play it real fast, and keep in mind, this is the former Atlanta mayor who I can't even, in all honesty, I don't know how long she served there, but it wasn't too terribly long.
It wasn't, but it was horrific the entire time. This is the reason.
It was a shamble.
Anybody wants to know why Buckhead wants to become a city and separate from Atlanta? This is the reason why, because this is the mayor who basically arbitrarily decided that Atlanta police officers were not going to pursue any criminals. So we've had a criminal field day in the city of Atlanta.
All right, so let's take a look at the clip real fast.
But this MAGA Republican agenda, this hate-fueled agenda, this MAGA Republican agenda that we saw incite violence on our nation's capital has no place in a democracy. And if we are not intentional about calling it out, which is what the president did, then our country, everything that our country is built upon, is in danger.
So it's true Democrat talking point, and it's true Democrat fashion to always reference back to January 6th as the worst thing that ever happened in American history. Granted, there were some terrible things that happened, and what the people who perpetrated those terrible things need to be held to the fullest extent of the law, including the FBI agents and the feds that were in the crowds for that. They need to be held to the full extent of the law. But it's interesting to note that everything that she referred to there, again, is exactly what she did. Literally. So this is Wendy's in downtown Atlanta. That is a Wendy's. That was after Garrett Rolfe, in defense of his life, shot and killed a gentleman who was running away from them and fired upon them with a taser,
stole their taser.
Yes, stole his partner's taser. I believe either Garrett or his partner was struck in the face with one of the barbs from the taser
because he was fighting them.
Yes, and when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Let's just be honest.
And that's my whole thing. I'm a big proponent of back up for a second. Like, not just karma. Like, there should be some kind of self-awareness that it's like when you were in school, okay? And I think this is very telling. When you got into an altercation in school, all right, in my mind, there were two types of people. There's people who, when they saw a teacher or the principal, they stopped because they were like, okay, this is done. Let's not escalate this anymore. And then there are those people who saw the authority figure and still felt that it was okay to escalate the situation. That's kind of the same. That's the principle of the issues that we're starting to see between people and police officers. When you see an authority figure and you're in an altercation, the best thing for you to do is to stop.
I mean, in all honesty, I really like that analogy. That's one that I had not considered before. That is a very good one.
Because they're there because we as citizens help create these laws. We help get them get through the process, and we have agreed that that's part of the social contract. So once you disobey with the social contract, then there are steps that have to be taken. Resisting is not in your best interest. Have your day in court if you have to. Tell your story, stay calm. And I have never been in a situation where I have been calm and, not have a decent conversation or understanding with the officer. Even when I'm in the wrong, they were like, sir, you're in the wrong. Yes, sir, you're right. I had set my ticket.
You never admit you just plead the fifth. You say, okay, sir.
What I'm talking. I know. Thank you for the legal advice.
Yeah.
For the free 99.
Anyway, but so one of the big things that you continually hear from all of these big talking heads, and so Kisha Lance Bottoms is now a senior advisor to the Biden administration. That's her job, a senior advisor. That in of itself, if that's not telling, I mean, wake up, folks. Sincerely.
Yeah.
I mean, that in of itself explains more than anything else we're able to say or do or anything.
If you live in state of Georgia, that should explain everything.
Oh yeah,
top to bottom.
Yes, she's literally top to bottom. Took me a minute, but I got it. Because she is, as we said, literally scraping the bottom of the barrel. So let's jump into our surprise segment. So Jamie and I, before we started the show, we had not actually intended on doing this, but we felt that it's something that, you know, that we should kind of give a little heads up on. But before we do jump into that, as always, we want to remind everyone to make sure that you are liking and sharing any of the content that you're seeing on any of the platforms that we do produce and put this out on. Also, if you're able to, go to the website, conservativestalk.org, and hit the sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and help us out with what you're able to. While you're there, also make sure you sign up for our newsletter by leaving your email on our homepage. Again, we know, and I'm getting mad at myself for continually saying it. It is coming, and it will be great.
Yeah, we're not even going to say it anymore. We're just going to release it.
We're still going to say it. So let's take a look at what we were talking about there, and that is Jamie's Roman special.
Here's something that I've had a heartburn over for the last couple of weeks, and the more and more we find out more and more information about what's going on, we wanted to do a special to kind of bring something to everyone's attention. The main thing here is this. Floyd County is a heavily conservative county and a heavily conservative district. What we've started to see, though, is in these nonpartisan races for the city of Rome and also in 2 seats in Cave Spring.
Thank you.
Left off the S's. The Democrats have tried to honestly found a way to say that they're nonpartisan and, gone in these positions. And now they are enacting very, very left-leaning policies amongst the cities.
Just turning blind eyes or a blind eye to multiple instances where the law is broken on several levels and occasions,
as long as it fits their agenda.
Exactly.
And so we decided to do a special over something that we've heard an outcry from a lot of conservative citizens who live inside the city. And we wanted to just highlight a good bit of the hypocrisy that's going on inside the city of Rome, because now is the time to, if you want to run for office or if you want to kind of, get your foot in the door and try to make sure that you're available for when your ward may come up inside the city limits, to kind of get started. In 2023, the city of Rome is going to have Ward 1 and Ward 3 come up, and we're outnumbered as basically just calling it out, conservative to Republicans
on the commission,
or conservatives to Democrats on the city commission. And it's time
but it's not so. And sorry for interrupting you. I just want to point out, although we are outnumbered on the commission, if you look at the voters in the precincts that make up Rome City, conservatives hold a good to significant advantage over the Democrats. So if we actually get some good folks in there for this and some good changes come down the road, then we'll take back Rome. Rome is a conservative leading city. Believe it or not, if you look at the numbers, it does lean conservative.
And I think the thing here is that, we've reached a point to where people have gotten so busy. They aren't necessarily paying attention. People aren't going to the meetings. They're only hearing about this afterwards, after the commission has done something and it's made news or
refused to do anything.
Yeah. Or, you'll have situations to where someone has known someone for 40 years. And so they're like, oh, I worked with this person. They seem conservative to me when I worked with them. And then they get into office and then they start doing these very, very left-leaning policies. And so we want to highlight some of that and a good bit of hypocrisy that I think it's very valuable that people are aware of.
I think we did a pretty good job of exposing it and bringing light to a lot of the things that, quite frankly, you're going to turn your stomach a little bit.
Especially one individual in particular who you just have to see the special, because this is an individual who,
well, in my mind, all of them, but we definitely highlight one.
And here's my whole point to this, and why I think it's important for everyone to watch the special. For the longest time, the local Republican Party has made it a duty to stay out of nonpartisan races.
Yes.
And that is because we have been the majority seat holder in the county for a very long time.
The county and the city.
And so it's been a rule inside the party that we would not get involved as far as donations or anything of that nature. The key to the hypocrisy for us, which part of the reason what led to the special, is the individual that we're going to highlight to a good degree came to the party. The party didn't go to this individual. They came to the party.
Yes.
But then at first chance went around and enacted Democratic policies and donated to a Democratic candidate for a congressional race.
You're just going to give it all away, buddy.
I mean, that's it. That's it. I mean, they know exactly who we're talking about. That's all that matters.
Yes. And something that Jamie said earlier, this could, in seeing this, if this puts you in the mindset to where you are wanting to do something, you're wanting to see a change, and you believe that that you're being led and being called to take a step out and do something about it, and consider even running for one of these positions, by all means, please reach out to us. Let us know. We can help you in a lot of these regards, and we can help you to get to where you need to be, to where you are, or we can help you along the process. We can kind of coach you along in how this actually goes. Jamie and I have quite an extensive background in in all three levels of governance, being local, state, and federal. So we can help you get to where you need to be and point you in the direction of where you can ultimately come to this decision that you're looking at making.
Well, and I will say this,
thought you were done.
No, well, I will say this, to be fair, right? Like there's only a certain level that I personally can being involved with the party at the level that I am. But again, if this is something behind you, then the party we're changing that rule. You want to run for a nonpartisan seat, but you're a conservative, please connect with us and we'll get the local party involved. We'll get some consultants that we may know involved and, kind of see where we are in the process of making this work, because it's time that we take back Rome.
Yes. No, we need to go in and kick out Juliet Caesar. You like what I did there, didn't you?
No, I like what you did there.
All right. So as always, we'd like to remind everyone to make sure that they're liking and sharing all the content that we produce and that we put out on the platforms, and make sure you're also subscribing to any of the platforms that we are producing and putting our content on, and go to our website at conservatives.org and hit the sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and help us out with what you're able to. Everything goes right back into the show, making it that much better. And it, quite frankly, could be how you are actually seeing it right now. While you're there, also on our homepage, make sure you leave us your email. That way you can come and take part in our upcoming newsletter. Again, I told you it's going to continue. It's never going to stop. Soon we will be saying not our upcoming, but our
newsletter,
5-year-long newsletter. So it will be there. So let's jump right into to Buck's little area, because I know he's been
itching.
He has been itching.
Can keep hearing him in my ear.
He's
flicking my ear.
Really been
not leaving me alone.
Yeah, he's being persistent on this one. And essentially, so what that is Buck has gotten it in his head that the mainstream media just does not care about Republican lives, and so that's actually coming after. And we're going to pull this up on here after an article that he read. And let's see here. So,
they whip and stir fry.
We'll
after a word from our sponsors.
Yeah. For real, right? Oh, I know what's going on here. So it needs to be this. Okay. So it's coming from this from an article that was published by The Hill, And the title of the article is Violent Threats Against Lawmakers Have Congress on Edge. So I can tell you that, yes, there has been a significant uprise in threats that are being issued against Congress, and that is detailed here in this article as well. And we'll provide the link to this article and the description below as well. But in reading through this article, it's really kind of jumps right out at you that none of this article actually talks about protecting and the concerns of Republicans. It talks about what happened to Republicans, but it doesn't talk about the concerns about Republicans. Like for the first one here being Representative Butterfield, which I got to say, it's a crazy name. Butterfield? I mean, really? You should slap your mom.
It's $90 to change your name. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Although maybe it sticks out better on the ballot.
That's true.
And everybody votes for the guy they feel sorry for.
And that's key as a consultant, right?
Yeah. So it does it does describe this and talks about how he had this vanity plate that said that he represented this great district where he's from, and how he was so proud that he was the member of Congress representing this district. But because of the increased violence after January 6th, again, keyword there being January 6th, that he felt that it was in his best personal interest of himself and his family that he removed that vanity plate. I find it interesting that he still maintained that vanity plate while Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and all of these other just communist hate radical groups were burning down cities, seizing them, killing people, and just literally creating the worst type of political violence. Yet he felt comfortable enough to continue to do that up until they found a narrative that fit a purpose against the Make America Great Again.
That's how you know. Again, that's how you know it was staged, right? Because they weren't upset when their people were doing it, but when their people started getting their butts kicked, now it's a problem.
Yep. So it goes on, there's details about how they have essentially increased the amount of funding that members are allowed to use to allocation for security systems, both in their homes, in the districts, and in the offices. It goes into it how he's taking more steps to become more anonymous when he's out in public. So he doesn't want anybody to know who he is anymore. Is that because he's scared that he's going to be harmed, or is it because he is ashamed of what he's doing with his policy or what his party's doing to our country?
Sound like he's got some other stuff that he's worried about, and he's projecting and using it as a reason why. He
doesn't want that second wife finding out where he's at. Again, that's purely speculation.
I was making it
not
up.
community.
Yeah. Anyway.
I am by no means inferring that is an issue.
So we don't know the guy.
Met him, but you're not missing anything. So you're looking at this, and it's talking about the skyrocketing. It's almost tripled, which again, that is 100% horrible. That should never be anything that a representative that felt, regardless of what the end of the road or the end game was, that somebody felt compelled to go and become a leader. They took the steps, they put in the time, they put in the work, they put in the effort, and they became that person. They should not be essentially having their lives threatened around every corner. Yeah. I mean, that's not how we as a country are supposed to work.
Yeah, I agree.
Granted, they do it far more than anything that's done on the right.
And I want to add this too. There's been this movement to try to talk about guns at events and everything, and the left and the media have been pushing that, and here's why I have a real problem with it is because I don't care what your stance on guns are. As far as when it comes to protecting the lives of citizens, the lives of everyday people, they're a necessity. So when you want people to talk about the use of guns or guns allowed at your event, that becomes a security risk depending on who's there, whatever reason. Look at Music Midtown. which is a event that's been going on for a long time. It's a festival, music festival that goes on down in Atlanta. And the moment that they said that they didn't want guns, including the security of the artists to carry guns, you automatically start to see artists back out because now you're putting their lives at danger. We're talking about individuals who get, and this goes into politics or celebrities or anything of that nature, because you're talking about individuals who, because of their high profile, are constantly targeted, constantly given threats and death threats. And you're now saying or trying to insinuate that you are making it less safe by allowing their security or anybody else to have guns inside the presence, when really you're just heightening the risk for something else to happen.
Yeah, there have been very, very few places that I have been where security is so good that I would not have been able to walk in with a firearm.
Yeah.
Very few places.
And well, you know, we talk about this when we talk about violence across the board. You know, we've actually seen, and I looked it up, especially when you start talking about schools and things of that nature, we've actually seen a large, sharp decline in the level of violence in this country. People don't believe it, though, and think it's more because the media continues to report on it. And because it has become such a big ticket for them and a big clickbait item for them to sell more stories, you see it more frequently. And what they're doing is they're highlighting isolated instances that never would have made national news, never would have made even their statewide news, because they don't have anything else that they can talk about.
It's fearmonger, plain and simple.
That's it.
So reading further into this this article, we see the famed Representative Raskin. Representative Raskin being one of the most vocal and outspoken, and he deems himself a firebrand of the January 6th panel. So here he's talking about how he has essentially had to increase his security presence because of all of the threats that he's received against him in his life, which, again, there is absolutely no excuse for doing that whatsoever. If that is something that you have done or even considering done, you're wrong. 100%. You're wrong.
Threatening people because of politics is ridiculous.
Yes, that is how we've got to where we are with this. So he's talking about all of that. Again, notice that it's only the concerns from the Democrats that we're talking about, how they're concerned about the safety of members of Congress. So you keep going through this. You know, again, they try and do the Trump air, with Democrats maintaining the blame falls squarely on the president or the former president, still my president. So again, keep going through all this. You know, it's just a bunch of hot airs talking about how they're talking about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. That's good old President Biden talking about us great, make America great again supporters. And keep going through his hot air. Again, still bashing Trump, only talking from the Democrat point of view. Keep going through, and then you run into where it starts referring to Republicans, and that being attacks aimed at members of Congress have targeted Republicans as well. So they're not just against Democrats. So they did target Republicans, but we don't really care about what they have to say. Or
they buried at the bottom of the article after the first 14 paragraphs about Democrats.
Yep. So they talk about what happened to Representative Lee Zeldin in his campaign for governor, where a gentleman jumped on the stage and assaulted him and ended up having a knife on him. And then you keep going even further down. It's interesting to note that under Zeldin, you have Representative Scalise mentioned in one sentence where he was literally gunned down by a Bernie Sanders supporter, a big Bernie Sanders supporter, gunned down while practicing baseball. And it's just one sentence mentioned in it. But, you know,
after the whole ordeal,
yes,
they only want to make one sentence about that entire heinous incident.
Yep. And so they go into it even more, where they're talking about the gentleman that was arrested outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house, and how Republicans are accusing are the magnificent and omnipotent Chuck Schumer. The man could never do any wrong. He never did anything like that. It's not his fault. He never did any of that with what he said, with his inflammatory remarks.
Oh, with them inciting violence with people and them literally causing riots and protests against the Supreme Court justice, where you had them posting their addresses on public forums. That in itself, like, pretty much sums it up. Like, and again, projection hypocrisy, because they want to talk about, oh, woe is me, yet they put out,
do no wrong.
Yet they put out the address of Supreme Court justice because they didn't like the ruling.
Absolutely. So we finally get a quote in here from a conservative member, and that being Andy Biggs, where he talks about the rhetoric that incites violence towards any elected or appointed member of the three branches of our constitutional government is dangerous and condemnable. That's the first time in this entire article where that is actually said.
Yep.
All of the rest of it is, or all the what is mentioned by Democrats is pointing the blame at Trump, at the Make America Great Again movement and the supporters of that movement. So we keep scrolling down more and more and more, and they start talking about how lawmakers that are who are Republicans who voted for an infrastructure bill that he opposed, blaming Trump for some of the threats that these members received because they voted on a bipartisan piece of legislation that was the Green New Deal Part 1.
Yeah. And we don't have to go through the whole article.
It gets interesting. So it even comes back into more of it where, we're talking about, so again, the MAGA faction, it's all about how this is Republicans' fault that members of Congress are beginning to have their lives threatened. So you have Adam Kissinger here. He's frankly the worst of the worst. But again, he's mentioned in the same article or in the same paragraph as Eric Swalwell. So that tells you pretty much where he's at on that one. Again, you have Juan Vargas. They have one quote from a Republican member in this entire article. So, yes, obviously, mainstream media has taken the position that, frankly, Republican lives don't really matter, or at least that's the impression that they're giving off there. Because I don't see how, if you actually believe that Republican lives mattered, then you would take more of an interest in getting that narrative out there and putting it out there more.
And be true. Like, I miss the days where you honestly had like reporters.
Yes.
Because they're far few in between that are reporting the facts of what something is, not giving a slated biased opinion. And, chalk it up to the information error and the high speed. I need it now because I feel like that's how come you can't really get good reporting anymore, is because everything has to be instant. And when you can't find the information or get enough time, they make it up,
our reporting's good,
which is the problem with mainstream media, because think about it. Like we do this way. There is certain times we put out the show because we want to make sure that we have all the information that we can beforehand. There have been times where Justin and I have been like, okay, we need to change the run of show because we don't have enough information about this segment yet. We want to wait until we can get as much information as possible before we present it. You don't see that anymore from mainstream media.
No.
And like I said, it's just one trickle down effect. And this is the story, print it. I need it tomorrow. You got 2 hours to retype.
Yep. It's become the literal fast food industry of information.
Yep.
Is our mainstream media, the organizations that we rely so heavily upon to conduct our lives, to go about our daily lives, and to how or to essentially take the next step that would affect our future, our well-being, our finances, our families, everything that we rely so heavily on. And now we're being force-fed this garbage and a guise to say it's truth. So that article, they'll say, oh, well, that was reporting. That was gave you the information of what was going on out there. But No, you gave the information in a light that shined directly upon one group over another, and that's what they do with that.
And this just reminded me of something, because this kind of plays into it since we're in the conspiracy corner, right? But I encourage everyone to go look at Joe Rogan's podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, because
there's a little something on that.
Because where he talks about, his claim is that there was a certain 3-letter agency that's been in the news a lot lately that actually was the one who forced him to put in the fact checker program inside of Facebook. So I encourage you to go look that up, because that segment's very telling as to a lot of things that we've been talking about. And, I'm never going to admit Butt was like 100% right, but it shows where he was close in some regard.
Well, I mean, as we continually acknowledge, the Babylon Bee had it right. Americans are just running out of conspiracy theories because they're all coming true.
Yep. It's like a little game.
Yes. So on that note, we all, at the end of every show, we always like to remind everyone to make sure that you hit the like button on there. Make sure you hit the share button, and make sure you also hit the subscribe button as well. That way you can stay up to date on any of the productions that we're putting out there. It'll alert you for any new productions that are coming, and keep you in the loop of everything that we're producing, putting out there. And if you wouldn't mind, please going to our website, and let's see here. It's right there. It's conservativestalk.org, and helping us out with what you're able to by hitting the sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner, and contributing to helping out with Jamie and I to be able to produce a much better quality content show, and to really be able to spread and push this message and this content out as far and wide as possible. So that's something that our ultimate goal is to essentially take over the world, and we're going to do it through this show, just like the liberal media did, right? Exactly. And while you're there at our website, make sure you sign up to join our up and coming email list, our newsletter list. Our first newsletter will contain the information that we've been so desperately and quite frankly stingily hanging on to and not saying anything to anybody about it under penalty of legal consequences. So we'll give you kind of a heads up or what's coming on to that, maybe even give you a little sneak peek into what we've gotten done with it so far. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to have the inside track on, because it's going to be something that's going to have serious national implications. Absolutely. So we got to hurry because I'm about to be late for my own rally. So let's your rally started 2 hours ago. The show comes on at 11. Oh yeah, we'll cut that segment then. But let's jump right into your favorite part. Awesome. Hang on. But let's jump into your favorite part. Yes. As always. 60 days until we beat Stacey Abrams. Oh, I'm so sick of that. I can't wait to have something else with that. Love it. I can't wait for her to finally concede after she loses. We're gonna. You think she can? We need to take an over and under on whether or not she actually is going to concede this time. Because technically, Stacey never conceded to Brian Kemp the first time, and then still ran around the country for about 2 years telling everybody that she's the real governor. Raked in millions of dollars doing it too. Like, how awful is that? But we're the problem. You're right. Obviously. You're right. It's us. Well, as the inevitability of all things on earth, every good thing must come to an end. At least for a little while. For this week anyway. Yeah. So we're going to leave it with that. Jamie lost his privileges for giving words of wisdom last week. And if you're not aware of what we're talking about with that, go back and watch last week's episode at the end. You'll see exactly what I mean. Don't chop it off. I need a mute button on this thing. But as always, this has been Conservatives Talk, and we will see